So this is going to be an interesting video. We are going to talk today about some of the extra tidbits of info in regards to Montreal Canadiens, guys, and guys that I think Montreal Canadiens fans were potentially interested in seeing as an option for their team. Now, this isn't all Montreal talk. Part of it is going to be Florida Panthers talk, as you already could probably tell by the title and thumbnail of this video. So with all that said, let's dive into it here. Because, to start things off, I wanted to talk about the prospects that the Montreal Canadiens have in their system, and some guys whose names could be seen as attractive options on the trade market. Yeah, that's right. We are talking about the Canadiens potentially trading away prospects instead of acquiring them. Yeah, sorry, gone are the days that the Habs are going full rebuild and trying to just get as many young dudes as possible. Now we are starting to see the Habs potentially be in a spot to help these guys improve the team now. And it all comes to us via an article published earlier last week on donlescoulisses.com by Felix Forget. NHL scouts are really starting to take an interest in Habs D-man prospect Adam Engstrom. Now, Engstrom is an extra name here because he's not the guy that we put in the thumbnail or the title of this video, but Engstrom is somebody that I think y'all should be paying attention to when you consider just how good some of these Laval Rocket guys have been as of late. Engstrom is a 21-year-old defenseman who had just made his AHL debut with the Rocket earlier this season. He had 27 points in 66 games and 5 points in 13 games in the Laval Rockets playoff run. Very suitable defenseman, very reliable defenseman. Sure, he didn't do well, or nobody did well, really, when the Laval Rocket got swept by the Charlotte Checkers, who are now in the AHL finals with the Abbotsford Canucks. But Felix Forget's article goes out there and dives into some comments saying that, hey, scouts are apparently very interested in Adam Engstrom. Take a look at this. According to Marco D'Amico, who discussed all of this on the Sean Starr podcast, we are starting to see Engstrom more and more as a very promising player who is flying under the radar. And that is attracting attention. There's one player NHL scouts are starting to keep a close eye on. Adam Engstrom, Marco D'Amico said. Scrolling down here, D'Amico notes that the Habs prospect has the makings of a D-man who, in the worst-case scenario, will be a solid third-pairing D-man in the NHL, but who also has the potential to be more than that. And of course, all of this is interesting for the Habs, but the club already has a surplus of left D. Lane Hutson and Cayden are here to stay, Arber Xhekaj and Jayden Struble are already battling for long-term positions, and Mike Matheson could sign a contract extension with the Habs. As promising as he is, Engstrom plays in a position where the Canadiens already have plenty of depth. In doing so, using him as a bargaining chip becomes interesting, especially given that teams may be interested in his services. After all, if scouts are watching him closely, it's because he's on some of these teams' radars. Now, that's all fine and dandy, right? Adam Engstrom, underrated name, good prospect, potential trade chip. But this is where we dive into some of the nuance, because while it is true that scouts and other teams are potentially watching Engstrom, it seems like he's not the only one in this boat. According to Marco D'Amico, in the event that the Montreal Canadiens are ready to part with Josh Waugh, there are teams across the NHL that have interest in him too, who has appeal after having played for, what is ECJ? I don't know what that stands for. What in the world is ECJ? Play for ECJ and having good times in the National Hockey League. Oh, I think ECJ is the World Juniors. That's what it is, right. So, lots to like out of the Montreal Canadiens and their prospects here. Josh Waugh is starting to potentially enter that territory where if the Canadiens are not really vibing with his development anymore, if they're starting to think that he is more so of an AHL guy rather than an NHL frame, then who knows? Maybe there is a possibility we see Waugh on the move. He had 35 points in 47 games played with the Laval Rocket this season and 10 points in 13 games in the playoffs, plus 2 goals in 12 Montreal Canadiens games. The unfortunate part about Waugh was that last year, heading into training camp and heading into the season, I think a lot of Canadiens fans were hoping that Waugh would be a full-time Hab. He just wasn't really good enough to stick around and actually be a meaningful contributor in that role, which is why he got sent down, and it's why he ended up going through the developments that he did. But now, Josh Waugh is a year removed, and I think we're in a spot where it's starting to become a make or break point here for Josh Waugh. If he's not able to fully become an NHL player sometime soon, then the question is starting to look like whether or not that's going to happen for him with the Canadiens. Of course, we recognize the style of game that he plays. He's not really the fastest. He's not really the most aggressive off the puck. He's not really the best two-way guy. He's just a player that has some really, really good playmaking instincts and a lot of good things to do offensively. But how far is that going to take you as you try to grow and mature at the NHL level? That's the question. So for Josh Waugh and Adam Engstrom, it does seem like these two guys are going to be in positions where, assuming the Canadiens put them on the block, they will be highly coveted, and we will see some teams really want them. With that in mind, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about a guy that the Montreal Canadiens potentially could have had themselves the opportunity to grab, assuming things went their way here. Doesn't look like that's going to happen anymore, though. Let's talk about one of the top free agents to be, and a player that I think a lot of fans around the NHL were interested in grabbing onto their team. You know him, you maybe love him, you probably don't, but maybe you do, and he is the likely Conn Smythe winner for the Florida Panthers right now. It is Sam Bennett. Take a look at this update as posted by NHL Watcher. Elliot Friedman says on 32 Thoughts earlier this morning, a lot of people are expecting Sam Bennett to go back to Florida. Furthermore, you had David Pagnotta say on NHL Network earlier this morning that Sam Bennett is pretty much locked in to stay in Florida, with a deal of around 8x8 being discussed. Now, I'm just sitting here wondering, well, how in the hell is Sam Bennett going out there and doing these contract negotiations in the middle of the finals? And then you realize, okay, it's probably not Bennett himself, it's probably the agency, the representation that he has, trying to get things going for now, and that makes a lot more sense, but it's like, hey, you're in the gosh darn finals, man. You don't really need to do this kind of negotiating right now. I guess the momentum of being in the finals for the third year in a row and having this role and being so important and skilled, productive, all these amazing things for Sam Bennett, it seems like that might have kicked things into high gear where maybe the Panthers are like, okay, yeah, he's too good. Let's not let him go to free agency. Let's just bring him back. And then maybe Bennett's party was like, yeah, okay. Give us a $60 million contract, then we'll start talking. And then it's like, okay, here's $64 million. And it's like, okay, yeah, let's actually start talking. So maybe that's how it went down. Who really knows? If you're a Montreal Canadiens fan who was hoping to see Sam Bennett potentially suit up for the blue, white, and red, that unfortunately will not be an option, or at least it doesn't look like it's going to be an option at this point. But with that in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about all of these extra updates for the Montreal Canadiens as well as for Sam Bennett? I know the Bennett thing isn't really like necessarily Habs news, but I did want to dive into this because, of course, there were players that Canadiens fans were interested in on the free agent market, and Sam Bennett definitely would have been one of those. So with all this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Bennett and this overall conversation? What are your thoughts on Josh Waugh? What are your thoughts on Adam Engstrom and the rest of these Canadiens guys who could get traded? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.